point out that Morty Bruce serves on the Veterans Commission for Stanislaus County, representing my district, District 2, where we are today. Now I'm going to ask Bishop Royale to come up and please lead us in prayer.
Serve as the altar boy today. Good evening to everyone. Let us bow our heads in prayer and ask the blessing of God upon our assembly. Heavenly Father and God of all consolation, we ask you to be present with us this evening as we come together as a community to share, to listen, to understand, and to hear. Give us the strength to play our parts in the betterment of our community and our society. Give wisdom to these servants, to these elected officials, who, as we learn from the scriptures, have been given authority from above. We ask you to bless our nation, to bless our townships, our cities, and even our villages. May we all come together in one spirit, and with one love, and with one heart. And we give you the praise and glory now and always, and forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Okay, you may be seated. This surely looks like an exciting night for sure. This is what I believe is our 7th annual Town Hall Government Night. Although some of the faces have changed over the years, I think the Congressman and myself have made all of them. And I can tell you this is the biggest crowd. I've always wondered where everyone was in the other meetings, but we've been holding them at Stanislaus State for the past probably 3 out of the last 4 years. And it's a great location, and this year I had it booked, and we had just met with the leadership, the ASI leadership. And Nicole, where are you? Nicole Larson? Stand up for 1 second. This is the president, ASI president of Stanislaus State. And she brought her leadership team with us. We just had a sit down where we talked about some important issues that are pressing for the college and how we can interact better. I think that's a fair statement. But we've always had it at Stanislaus State. The venue holds about 400 people. This year I booked it. I had it set up through the ASI. And then the congressman said, no, this isn't going to work. We need a bigger venue. And so we've moved it to the biggest venue in District 2. As you will notice, we have the mayor of Turlock. He's now about 400 feet outside of his district because we moved it, but he's still with us. And so we'll go through. So the way I expect this, the way it's always worked in the past, is we're not going to be here for just an hour. We'll be here as long as it takes, as long as everyone is respectful, and civility is the word of the day. I hope that we can all stay civil. We'll have a good dialogue back and forth as we always have. So typically I give each one of our guests, I'll give them a little introduction. They can talk about what they're working on, what are important issues, and then we'll go from there. And then we'll go to the Q&A. We have some questions already written. I'll call out the name. They'll stand up. I'll read their question. And then if you guys want to stay here for 2 or 3 hours, I'm game. I'll stay here as long as any of you want to. I don't know everyone else's schedule, but I'm willing to stay here. So I didn't say my name. I'm Vito Chiesa, Stanislaus County Supervisor representing District 2. District 2 is Houston, Hickman, LaGrange, Denair, Turlock, and Keys. So we're right in the heart. Turlock happens to be the largest populace by a long shot, and that's why we've been doing this government night. We also tried it one time in Houston. It was great, but there's not a huge population center there. So. Anyways, thank you all for coming. I look forward to, again, a grand dialogue. So first up tonight, we have our congressman, Congressman Jeff Denham. He represents the 10th Congressional District in the House of Representatives. It includes all of Stanislaus County and parts of San Joaquin County. He was first elected to Congress in 2010 and is currently serving his 4th term in the 115th Congress. Representative Denham's public service career began with the U.S. Air Force, where he served 16 years between active duty and reserve status. He fought in Operation Desert Storm, Operation Restore Hope in Iraq and Somalia, respectively. He's a Cal Poly graduate, as is myself. He was a California State Senator from 2002 to 2010. He has been married to Sonia, his lovely wife, is with us tonight. I know There she is right here in the front, for 23 years, and they have 2 children. With no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our Congressman, Jeff Denham.
Well, thank you and good evening. As Vito said, this is our largest one, and we welcome everybody here. I can see some friendly faces. I can see some people that have been to my mobile district office hours. We've had some great conversations. Had some great conversations in my office. A number of different events that we've done, and I look forward to answering your questions again. The point of this is to make sure that not only do we have representative government, but that we're actually talking about issues and ideas. I'm always looking for input from my community. I am here to vote my district and to vote my conscience. The only way I can do that is by continuing to have conversations with all of you. So I'm looking forward to a productive conversation. I would ask that we keep this as a productive conversation, be respectful of each of my colleagues that are up here, and we want to be here to answer your questions, whether we agree or not. I was elected to represent all of you, and my goal is always to make sure we listen, we have a conversation, and we continue to do that. So I can see some red cards going up. We haven't even started yet. So I'm not sure what we disagree on yet, but I'm looking forward to getting there, because again, I think this is about having a dialogue. So let me start by talking about some of the issues that are important issues right now. Some of them very emotional issues, but issues that we're working on in Washington, D.C., as well as the issues that I feel are important for our community that I am working on. First of all, let's start with healthcare. Who here likes the Affordable Care Act as it came to Congress? Single payer. Who likes single payer? Universal health care? Good opportunity to see where everybody's at here. So let me tell you my thought process in going through what's been happening in Washington, D.C. I've had a lot of people say, give me a yes or no last month, give me a yes or no right before the vote, give me a yes or no today. I do not take positions on bills until we know exactly what we're voting on. My job is to make sure that before I vote, I'm working on behalf of my constituents. And so my concern has always been, while there are some things that I feel have moved our community forward in the Affordable Care Act, there are also still some challenges here in California's Central Valley. We're different than other areas of the state. We're different than other areas of the country. And one of the challenges that I've seen is with the lack of access that we have. So we have added more people to Medi-Cal, Medicaid across the country, Medi-Cal in California. We've added more people to coverage, which is a good thing. We're now covering more people. Our challenge is we have fewer doctors in our community, and we have even fewer doctors that are willing to take Medi-Cal patients. So while some good things have happened, including...
It is true.
That's a good idea. Great. So let me tell you how my ideas are to fix this. So we have expanded Medi-Cal in California. We have emergency rooms, lines, waiting, just as well as we did before the Affordable Care Act. I want to make sure... Let's be respectful. Let's be respectful. Let me finish. Look. Hold on. I'm willing to stay here as long as the supervisor and everybody allow us to stay here, as long as we're respectful. I want to answer every question. And I would love to answer your question, but you're going to have to give me an opportunity to at least explain my position first. Hold on. I'm going to explain my position. I'm going to allow my colleagues to explain their positions, and then we're going to answer questions. And again, I'm willing to stay here and answer all of your questions as long as we're being respectful. Because I have a lot of people here that want to hear what we're working on. So the Affordable Care Act,
All due respect.
again, we're going to be respectful. I'm going to allow you to ask your questions, just not right now. Just give us a couple minutes. Just give us a couple minutes. Just give us a couple minutes.
Sit down.
I want to be here to answer all the questions. Just give us a couple minutes.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, good to see you. 4 times. I saw you were writing letters that we haven't got together 4 times. We and I have got to get it down. All right. I sidelined. Apologize. All right. So the Affordable Care Act, pre-existing condition. Pre-existing condition is important to both parties. It is something that is a must for me to keep in for me to support the Affordable Care Act. The changes that are coming up in the upcoming vote. My kids are also both in college. They're both under 26. I want to keep them on my shirts. I think that's important as well. So those, along with the extension of Medi-Cal patients, are all important things. The thing that I'm fighting for right now is to make sure while we're 48th out of 50th in the country on reimbursing our doctors are not seeing new patients. We want to get a medical school at UC Merced, which is something I'm going to work with our state colleagues on. We want to see a UC medical school. There's a new medical school being proposed in Fresno. We want to see that. In both cases, they tell me, we do not want to move forward on a medical school, even if we have state funding, unless we have residencies in our community. So we've got to expand the residency program in the country to allow us to have more residencies here. And I'm going to ask the governor, as I have in the past, to make sure that these new residencies don't get transferred to LA or San Francisco, but actually are right here in our community. So as we get a new medical school, we also have new residencies of doctors that are going to graduate in our community, stay in our community, and serve our community. We have to have more doctors. We have to have more doctors that are paid at a good salary so that we're not 48th out of 50th in the country at a lowest reimbursement rate. We need to improve that reimbursement rate so they'll be able to see everybody. Those are the 2 things that I am working on and 2 things I made sure are a must before this is something I consider voting for. So I have expressed to leadership that I am a no on the healthcare vote until it is responsive to my community. Okay, so aside from that, we have some other big issues in our community. We need to improve our infrastructure. And as we talk about infrastructure across the country, as we talk about expanding roads, expanding rail service, expanding ACE rail and BART so that our community can actually commute at a quicker rate. In that infrastructure package, we also need to have water storage. We need to make sure that we've got flood control, off-stream storage, as well as expanding Temperance Flat, building sites, expanding Shasta. But we need to be thinking about our next generation, our kids, and whether or not they're going to continue to live in the valley or whether they're going to continue to live in California. We've got to have water storage. Clean water, we need to make sure that we're having that percolation back into the ground and addressing that as well. We had some wins during lame duck with the WIN Act, which allowed us to change some regulatory issues, expand a little bit of storage, but what we're looking at in this big infrastructure package is actually big new reservoirs that when we have wet years, we can actually store water. I'm going to touch on one last issue because I don't want to talk too long before we get to questions, and I want to hear from my colleagues as well. Immigration. We need comprehensive immigration reform. It is something I was supportive of under the previous president and the previous president before that. But our immigration system is broken, and we've got to fix it. So I was supportive and signed on to the Senate bill last session. This session, I've introduced my own bill, the Enlist Act, which will allow Dreamers to serve in the military. We have 175 bipartisan co-authors now, more than any other immigration bill. Not a partisan issue. but an issue that will help resolve one small aspect of immigration reform. Beyond that, we need to address all agreements. So I'm a co-sponsor on the RAC Act and the Bridge Act, two things that I think are important in my community, and then ultimately addressing our visa system as well as our undocumented population. I'm looking for a whole-scale fix that starts with securing our border and ends with comprehensive immigration. But the whole border security issue that Senator Obama, Senator Schumer, and Senator Clinton all voted for is the same bill that we're talking about bringing up now. These should be partisan then. So the funding is there, and we're going to start with that current pot of money as well as the new pot of money that will be in the funding bill coming up in this next funding bill at the end of the month. So with that, those are the three issues that I wanted to start on. We're going to talk about and go into more depth in any of those issues, as well as any other issue you want to talk about. But now I want to turn it back to my friend Vito, who's going to introduce our other colleagues.
I failed to mention the three committees that Congressman sits on. It's Transportation and Infrastructure, as well as the House Committee on Agriculture and the House Committee on Natural Resources. So thank you. Next up is Heath Flora. He's a farmer, a firefighter, a business owner, and he was just elected to the 12th district of the State Assembly. You can tell him exactly what the lines are. I know I can't even say in San Joaquin County. He was raised on a farm. He's been a small business owner and a volunteer firefighter for 15 years. As a lifelong farmer, he serves as the director for international sales of the Exact Corporation, a family-owned business. Prior to entering the business world, he received training as a paramedic and worked for CAL FIRE for 3 summers. He's also a volunteer firefighter for over 15 years, and he currently has the rank of battalion chief. And we'll tell you, Heath is also married and has 2 lovely young daughters. So I'm going to turn it over to 12th Assembly District member, Heath Flora.
It's an absolute privilege to be with each and every one of you tonight. It's awesome to look out across the crowd like this and see a lot of friends. There is a remarkable amount of community support when we have events like this. And this is incredibly important to me because coming out of a career in public safety that I've done since I was in high school, working in sales, now in politics, my entire life has been dealing with folks, their issues, and how we can make their lives better or bring some sense of calm to otherwise a chaotic situation. And I feel that's what we have in politics right now, is a relatively chaotic situation. And I'm excited about the opportunity to work with a lot of really good legislators on both sides of the aisle, because they do exist. And now more than ever, we need to get past the rhetoric on the state level, at the federal level, and we need to come together, certainly as Californians, because we are a little bit different. We do things a little bit differently in California, and that's okay. But we have to stick together as Californians, and we represent all of our communities together. It is not just what my ideas are, but it's what the 12th District ideas are. And I'm excited for the opportunity to serve each and every one of you. I'm going to keep my remarks relatively short because we do want to get to the questions. And there are some issues coming down at the state level that I am excited to talk about if those questions get asked. But I do want you all to know that our offices are open to you. We are here to serve each and every one of you. And that's all that I can offer you right now, is just that promise that if you have issues, it may not be the answer that you are looking for, but it'll be the honest answer, and it'll be what I want to give you. So I appreciate each and every one of you coming. Thank you, and look forward to the evening.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Mayor Gary Soyseth. He is elected to his first term, a 4-year term, as the 22nd mayor of Turlock. This in November of 2014. He's a 3rd-generation family farmer. Mayor Soyseth is the regulatory administrator of water and energy policy at the Modesto Irrigation District. If being mayor wasn't enough, He also serves on the transportation. He takes the lead on transportation and drinking water. Mayor Soyseth serves as Turlock's representative, the vice chair to STANCOG, which is your transportation agency for Stanislaus County. He's also a former adjunct professor at Stanislaus State University, which is great. Before his election, Mayor Soyseth lived and worked in the rural villages throughout Afghanistan as the Director of Economic Growth for the United States Army 2012-2013. So please join me in welcoming our Mayor, Gary Soyseth.
Thank you so much for all coming out here. I know, I apologize to the Congressman and the Assemblyman. I know all the questions are going to be for me tonight, so put your feet up. My name is Gary Soyseth, and I am the mayor of the city of Turlock, which is about 400 feet that way on that side. This is Denham, so this whole border development, I won't get into that with your supervisor, but we appreciate you being here. I will keep my remarks short as well. We are focused on balancing our budget here in Turlock, and we are going to be going line by line through our budget again over this summer, and I'm pretty convinced that we're going to be able to balance that budget this time around. We have paid off aggressively our debt here in the city of Turlock. Upwards of $5 million we have taken from toxic debt, and where the interest has been skyrocketing, and we've paid that off, and we are replenishing our reserves rapidly. We have also taken the lead on water resources here in Turlock. We have worked with the Turlock Irrigation District to get surface water, so we're no longer dependent on groundwater 100%, and we will hopefully be breaking ground in spring of 2018. We have also taken steps to make sure all the water molecules that we use in the city of Turlock become recyclable, become reusable. 10,000 acre-feet of water is what we use, and I'm excited that 100% of that, by the time I'm done being mayor, will be used and recycled either on our farms, in our sports complexes, or other places. I agree, thank you. And finally, I am committed to strengthening our partnership between the Stanislaus State, our great Stanislaus State, and the city of Turlock. Yeah, give a round of applause for these guys. It is a bastion of free thought. These are great students that make a great part of our city of Turlock. I'm so glad to be over there talking about the Mayor's Award, where we talk about alternate ways of methods of transportation, when we talk about bridging the town-gown divide between the downtown and Stanislaus, when we retool all of our bus routes so that Stanislaus students can show their ID card and get on there for free. We have been really progressive with working with our students. I'm very proud of that university, and I'm proud that a lot of those students are all here tonight, so give them a round of applause. Finally, as mayor, it is my commitment to you, to all of you, that whether you've been here for 100 years, or whether you're a new resident, whether you're a refugee or an immigrant, that you feel comfortable and safe in the city of Turlock. I had the honor of opening City Hall's doors just last weekend to 60 refugees from Afghanistan and Syria. They came in. We expressed to them their rights, knowing how to be safe, how to access services. We explained to them what they can do here in the city of Turlock and how they can become part of our fabric. And why do we do that? We do that because we want them to feel welcome. That is a good thing for our safety, for our security, for them and for us. And so I'm committed to making sure that any person from any community feels welcome in Turlock. I don't care if you're from the LGBTQ community, if you're a refugee, if you're a citizen, just been here for 100 years, you will be treated with respect. And finally, and then I'm turning it over because I have a feeling this is the last time I'll be able to speak tonight. Finally, I'm very proud that we have launched our 1,000 Flags, American Flags initiative to honor our veterans, to honor those people that have committed their lives and their time to defending our country. So far, absolutely, that was my vice mayor over here. So far, we have 11 additional new flags, but we have a website that's going to be tracking that, and by Veterans Day, you'll see 1,000 new American flags. And so, I'll leave you with this. If you want to talk to me more, I take every appointment that's requested. 668-5540, extension 1100. That's City Hall. Call me, and I'll meet you anytime. Thank you so much.
My home number out. That's good. The mayor always likes to be called after 10 p.m. and before 6 a.m. So in case you don't. So a couple things now. We've got a bunch of questions here, and we're going to start going through them. And if you didn't submit a question in the end, we'll let you go. If we do let you go, there's going to be 2 minutes for your question or your comment. Preferably, it's a question. Again, I'm asking for everyone. We're going to try and get through this as fast as we can. I know that there's going to be more questions for probably the state and federal representative, but I've got the first 4 questions here that came from the Stanislaus State ASI. So I'm going to start with a question for each one, and I'm going to walk around. And if I call your name, if you could stand, I'm going to walk towards you. I'm going to read your question. In case there's a question back for you, you can ask it. So with that, the first question, I'm going to go, and Gary, I'm not going to leave you out tonight, but I'm going to start with, let's go with Assemblyman Heath Flora. Do you support Susan Eggman's bill to make college free for all? That sounds like a setup.
Yeah, that was, at least we start with the easy one, right? The truth of the matter is, my colleague from Stockton, we spoke a lot about this, and we do have some different ideas on free college for everyone. My biggest concern is we have to keep college affordable for everybody. That is number one. Is somebody down here asked a question? Sorry. That's our number one priority, is making sure that everybody who has the opportunity goes to college if they want to. Free college is a very big ask for our taxpayers. We have to figure out a way to fund this. Like everything in life, it comes down to a financial burden.
Buy one less bomber.
We don't ask questions. How much it costs to bomb countries?
That's a great opportunity if you're not the one that's getting taxed. So I understand this, sir. You are the one getting taxed. We all pay into the system, right?
No.
We all. So we're going to get it back to the question. We're not going to talk about the president's taxes. And we're going to focus back on the question, which is affordable college for everybody, correct? That was what the question is, right? Okay. There is a big difference between free and affordable. I support affordable college for everybody. I cannot put the burden on somebody else's money that I did not earn. That is their right to have their money. We all pay a tax rate. What is the burden of uneducated system? So let's talk about education just briefly, okay? We talk about four-year colleges being education, right? What about career tech? What about career technical education? No? No. What about, now listen to me, what about our union friends that are pipe fitters, that are electrical workers, that are sheet metal workers? What about those guys? Let's take our communities and let's put them into that type of education.
We don't have enough doctors.
Listen, I'm going to sit down with this question. The colleague and I from Stockton are going to continue this conversation. We need our high school students to come out of high school. We need our college students to be prepared for the workforce, no matter what. So however we can help them in a respectful and sustainable way, I will support that. Thank you.
What are your views on Pell Grants, and do you support summer Pell Grants? Are you also supportive of student loan forgiveness?
Woo, yeah.
Whose question is it?
This is from the Stanislaus ASI students. They get the first 4 questions.
So Pell Grants, absolutely. We've had this conversation. I'm a big supporter of Pell Grants and believe that summer school is one of those things that we ought to have Pell Grants for as well. Student loan forgiveness, what type of student loan forgiveness?
All of it.
No, I wouldn't support that. Yeah, so if you serve in the military, that would be one form of being able to do student loan forgiveness. Serving your community, I think there are opportunities, but those are things that we have to discuss. I haven't seen a piece of legislation that is on that right now. Let's be disrespectful now. Let's be respectful. Wait your turn. Next question.
That was it. Up for the mayor. In your opinion, what was the one thing you believe Turlock needs to compete with other college towns?
Sorry, I put my microphone away. Say that again? Say that again?
What's the one thing you believe Turlock needs to compete with other college towns like San Luis Obispo?
Absolutely. So that town gown divide I talked to you earlier about, and by the way, we don't want to be a slow. We want to be Turlock, California. Right? That's exactly what we want to be. No, it's bridging that town gown divide so that they have an affinity for Turlock, and then making that second layer where we actually have jobs for those educated individuals to stay here in Turlock, stay part of this community that they've helped build and put together. When I'm over there, I had a one-on-one with these students. They want Turlock to be their community. They don't want to just stay on the campus. They want to bleed into this community. They want to have dialogue with community members. If they're from Sacramento or down south and they come here, they want to feel a part of this. And so I'm proud that we've been able to have that dialogue and have it constructive and keep going from there. So that's what I would say.
That's great. Thank you. For the supervisor, how do you propose we make Stanislaus County more attractive to college students and businesses besides the ag sector?
Yes.
I can tell you that there's three things that make a vibrant economy. One is a safe community. I want to introduce Sheriff Adam Christensen over there in the corner. Appreciate you coming up here. Part one crimes have been very flat, so I would say we're on the right track. I will tell you the second part is an educated workforce. And that comes in a lot of different, that's trade schools, that's college, there's lots of things that need to be, and we have to work on that because we've seen the graduation rates tick up and teachers are very much underappreciated and because they're social workers, they're doing things that are probably outside their scope. Appreciate it. And the third thing is infrastructure. Infrastructure is, here's Mr. Bird from MID, low energy prices, sewer and water capacity like Turlock have, world-class infrastructure, a road system, which we're dealing with right now. Major L, thank you all for the half-cent sales tax that passed just recently, and you will see our roads improve vastly going forward. Those are the three things we're attacking, all three of those issues in fast order. I'm going to point out one thing about the Sheriff's Department. I can't speak for the Turlock PD or Modesto PD, but we've been in a state of declining revenue. Everyone knows that. We went through the Great Recession. I think at a high, we were about 214 deputies out on patrol. We went to a low of 144. Now think about that when you think about our safety, and yet crime has stayed flat on the Part 1 crimes, the quality of life crimes, because of Prop 46 and some other things have crept up. But they're doing an incredible job, the police services. So thank you, Adam, and to all your guys. I appreciate it. Okay, the next question is Glenda Olson. Glenda, where are you? This is for Congressman Denham. You recently indicated in a letter that in the Central Valley we face a lack of access to quality health care. Access is important, but affordability is a necessity. How does the legislation you are drafting in regards to health care address and solve this problem of lack of access?
Thank you for your question. So two different ways. Again, I talked about having a partnership on the state and federal level, make sure we have a medical school here. We have other medical schools across the state, and you see doctors staying in those communities. So having a medical school here is one part of that. The challenge is we will never get medical schools here until we expand a residency program. So the two things that I'm mainly fighting on in this current healthcare debate is to make sure that we have residencies here. We expand our residency program specifically here in the Valley, not across the state, because oftentimes we leave that to the governor who transfers our residency programs to places where it's convenient for people to live, or it's convenient because that's where their medical school is. So we want to have them specifically here in the Valley. The second is making sure that we actually reimburse our doctors for taking Medi-Cal patients. And so we are 48th out of 50th in the state, in the country. Our governor needs to reimburse our doctors. In fact, we just passed a tobacco tax. Whether you support the tobacco tax or not, that tax was designed to have that money go to reimbursement for our doctors so they'd actually see Medi-Cal patients. So he's now taken that money, that $1.4 billion, to go to the general fund rather than reimbursing our doctors. So I think the state needs to have some skin in the game. But the federal government as well needs to make sure that we are running pilot programs or programs altogether that expand the amount of money that we are paying the doctors specifically to see Medi-Cal patients. Hold on, let's be respectful. Vito, can you hand her the microphone so that we can, happy to answer the question in more detail.
Turn on the mic.
As I said in the question, access to the doctor is one thing, but affordability is something else. And under the bill that was going to be voted on by the House, and we didn't know how you were going to vote on it, the American Health Care Act, it's a misnomer as far as I'm concerned, because too many people were going to be without health insurance. And so many people that are wealthy were going to get big tax cuts. So in my question, I said access is one thing, but if the means are not there for the people to be able to afford the health insurance, they're not going to be able to go to the doctor because they can't afford the insurance. So what can you do to make sure that the next time that a bill comes before you to vote on, it's not going to be one that gives big tax cuts to the wealthy and does not provide
Good one.
Okay, so being affordable, I think, needs to be affordable for everybody. We need to make sure that businesses aren't stopping creating jobs, that, you know, my kids who are in college right now should be able to work more than 20 hours. I mean, I think that there are, let's be respectful now. Let's be respectful.
Be respectful and answer the question.
If you give me a chance, I'd love to answer the question.
Get to it directly. 2 minutes.
So let me finish. So I think it needs to be affordable for everybody. And that's one of the things that we've got to work on. But again, the focus, I think, as we have been one of those states that has expanded Medi-Cal more than any other state, and we're still 48th out of 50th in the country on having doctors that will actually see these Medi-Cal patients, we have a lack of access.
Answer the
And
question.
so I think we've got to do. So again, they don't want to see Medi-Cal patients because they don't want to lose money like any other business. We need to make sure, let's be respectful now. Let's be respectful, because I'd love to stay here as long as you want to stay here tonight, but we got to be respectful. Let me answer her question, and then we'll go to the next one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, I want to expand access and affordability. I want to make sure that if you've now gotten insurance for the first time because we've expanded Medi-Cal, then you're able to keep that. But I also want to make sure that if you have Medi-Cal now, then you're actually able to see a doctor. And I would add just one other thing. One of the things that has changed in our state, in our community, that I think is a benefit of the Affordable Care Act is our health centers. We have health centers that see a lot of our Medi-Cal population. Those health centers have now doubled in the funding over the last 7 years. And so those health centers have been a big benefit in our community. But we're still not able to see all of the doctors we'd like. It's accessibility and affordability. Thank you very much.
Next question is going.
Thank you.
Next question is from Pat Rickenberger.
Just say you're not sure of the answer.
And the question is, what will you do, this is for the Congressman again, what will you do to protect our earned Social Security and Medicare benefits?
Vito, one more time.
What will you do to protect our earned Social Security and Medicare benefits?
Can you let the people ask the question? It has been something that I have campaigned on, I've talked about. I think it's important to make sure that we've got Medicare as well as Social Security for the next generation. I mean, both Republicans and Democrats agree that our Social Security system is...
No.
Hasn't been a secret. Under the previous president, we knew the amount of debt we were taking on, and we knew that Social Security was going bankrupt. It's something that both... I would just say that doing nothing is not the answer. You elect us to show leadership. It's an issue that we're going to have to show leadership.
We're not showing leadership.
My understanding, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but Congress borrowed money from the Social Security Fund and never paid it back. Number two, there's some easy fixes, and one is to raise the cap so that a person who makes $500,000 pays as much as same percentage as the rest of us. So those two things would be helpful. We also have major corporations in the United States that pay this in tax. Zero. Absolute zero. GE, as far as I know, is one example. So when I was growing up during the Eisenhower years, corporations paid a much higher portion of the revenues for the country. And we started seeing a real slide in income during the tax reductions of the Reagan era, and that's when the rich and the poor started to separate, and now we have two-tiered society, and this is all connected economically.
Is from Andy Nasrati. Where's Andrew?
We asked the question.
Did you have anything to add?
Answer the question.
She referenced a bill. I'm happy to look into what that bill is. I'm not sure who the author is.
Do your homework.
Trying to be honest, I'm not sure all 2,000 bills that have been introduced so far, but I'm going to look into that one.
It's our money. You're taking it.
Andrew Nasrati.
Do your homework.
Okay, his question is for the congressman again. Can I trust you to use the best available data with regards to environmental protection?
Yes, absolutely. I think as we're looking at our environment, we need to use the best science available. But that actually means looking at the best science available. So, was it your question, sir?
Yeah.
It's my question,
Why
too.
did you vote against or vote in favor of the repeal to protect the streams from coal mining? Why are you trying to protect the coal mining industry when it's already dead? We need to be investing in clean energy. The Republicans are putting people in place that don't believe in climate change. Do you believe in it? That humans are causing it? Will you say right now that you believe that humans are causing climate change?
Ask me all your questions and I'll answer all your
That's
questions.
the one. It's a yes or no.
Answer the question.
Yes, so again, I would love to answer every question tonight. And it's like church. It's just like church. We have to be respectful. I'm going to answer the question. Let's calm down a little bit.
It's also the famous Denham.
Answer it.
Thank you. So, before we start any more chants, before we do the Talk Denham Talk or the Read Our Cards or
Yes
We're Not Done Yet,
no!
let's just keep. You're welcome at our town hall.
Your
We want to address every
grandchildren's
question.
future depends on it! Answer the question! Let him talk! Shut up! You shut up!
Okay, so climate change, I actually do believe, yes, there are man-made. So let me ask you. So I'm supportive of an all of the above energy solution. So I like solar. You like solar? Okay, wind.
We also like the EPA.
Well, what about hydro? Who likes hydro?
Renewable energy, yes!
Right, see, this is part of our challenge. So as a Republican, hold on, let me. I'll give you another chance to rebut. But if you want me to answer your question, give me a chance to answer it. So I've already said yes. I believe in climate change. I believe that we need to have an all-of-the-above energy solution that not only deals with solar and wind and some of the more popular things, but here in this state, we don't consider hydro the cleanest of energies. Green energy, I see a lot of people here that don't support hydro energy any more than we support biomass. I'd rather see clean biomass than see our forests burn up, which actually creates more carbon in our community. So I want to see an all-of-the-above energy solution that creates energy independence so we're not reliant on foreign oil or any other foreign energy. Let me finish.
I support that, but what I'm wondering is, are you going to actively fight the fossil fuel industry from being such a big part of our country? We're already too late. When you ask the majority of scientists, we're going to be suffering from the consequences of climate change unless we act years ago. So we need to act immediately, and our Congress seems to be unaware of it. Seems to be ignoring the facts. It's not enough to say we need to plan. We need to act immediately. Our president has refunded the North Dakota Access Pipeline, something that has incredible damage to the water sources and something that the majority of Americans do not support.
We want the EPA!
So I've been on record, I have voted several times now on the Keystone XL pipeline. I support Dakota Access. I believe that we've got to use our own and in this process, we're not only creating more jobs and I really love to get to. So let me finish. A lot of union jobs. That's why the unions have supported them. A lot of union jobs. So in this same process, let me finish. Let's be respectful now. So in this process, we're also getting greater natural gas, which is also a much cleaner energy. I think there's opportunities for us not to only become energy independent, but also allow us to create jobs and be much cleaner for our environment. Again, I believe in climate change, and I'm willing to do something about it. Supervisor, let's go to the next question.
Okay. The number of jobs you're talking about, do you know how many the Dakota Access Pipeline?
5!
Okay. Murder walks.
That's not true.
First murder walks.
How many jobs then
Okay.
does it create?
How many?
How many? How many jobs does
So
it
murder
create?
walks. There she is here. There she is. Okay. So we'll get through more questions because we've got, I think, tell me how many questions. We probably have 200 questions up there. At this rate, we won't get through many of them. Tell me guys, Myrna. Okay, Myrna's question is, why not feed the hungry instead of more dollars for war? That's why not feed the hungry instead of more dollars for war?
Well, I'd like to feed the hungry. This is one of the things that came. Hold on. Now. So this is one of the issues that came up when we did a series government event. It was a breakfast a few weeks ago, and it was actually held at Howard Training Center. Yes, Howard Training Center, where actually we make meals. I volunteer there at times to feed. I mean, it's Meals on Wheels. So I do believe that we have important programs. So one of the issues that's come up is in the new funding bill is CDBG grants. So I want to make sure that those grants stay in place while Meals on Wheels is funded mostly separately outside of the federal government. The grants are very important. So that's one of the issues that I want to make sure continues to get addressed. But I've also supported foreign aid when it comes to feeding, whether it's people in Jordan or Syria, to make sure that we are feeding people at the same time. But at the end of the day, my number one job is the safety and security of this country. That's something I'm going to continue to focus on. Thank you for your question.
I'm sorry, I'm handing out my number. It's Gary Soyset's number. There you go. Okay, next up, Brian Sordo. Brian Sordo, where are you? I heard here. Okay. His question for the congressman: why should anyone pay a larger percentage of their income than any other student? It's a student. Citizen. Okay, any other citizen. First $40,000 tax-free, 20% flat. After that, no tax breaks. So, okay. Why should anyone pay a larger percentage of their income than any other citizen?
I believe for a much fairer, flatter rate. I do think that we ought to have a flatter rate system in place.
It's interesting how I hear people talk about Social Security, how we should pay the same rate, but they should pay more, but the same flat rate. So wouldn't that hold true with taxes too then? So if they pay more in their Social Security, which would be okay, but then everybody pays the same amount for taxes too, percentage-wise.
Yeah.
No tax breaks.
Oh, I'd like to get rid of the loopholes. Yeah. There ought to be a much fairer system than what we have today. It's one of the things we're working on. It's actually one of the things that I agreed with the previous president when he wanted to lower the corporate rate down to 25%. My concern was that 85% of our small businesses, 85% of our businesses are small businesses. And so we need to lower the corporate rate down for all businesses, and then we need to have a much fairer rate. I know most of you didn't support President Obama, but it was something that I supported that he did. But yeah, that's a fairer, flatter rate. Yes, get rid of all the loopholes. Thank you.
Tina Savini. Her question is for the Assemblyman.
What? I thought your question was for me.
Okay, the question is, do you support AB 393, holding community college and CSAA fees at some level?
That was actually for Assemblyman Flora.
Yeah.
I had several questions.
Yeah, I did say this.
Can we allow her to break the rules since she was very respectful and patient? And allow her to ask each of us a question?
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if that was a sarcastic comment or not, but...
No, I want to answer your question. Go ahead.
Congressman, who am I allowed to ask a question to? That's I guess.
Both of us. Let's start with
Okay, great. Assemblyman Flora. The first thing, is this on?
Yes.
First thing I'd like to say is that I am a longtime resident of this community. I grew up on a farm in Modesto. We moved from Ohio when I was in the 4th grade. So I have been in this community for a very long time. And I have the privilege to teach at 2 institutions, although as adjunct faculty, I can tell you that that's a very difficult job. I teach in the arts, which is an incredibly difficult job, especially with the climate we've been in more recently, where everything human and everything for the collective good has been repressed. Anything that is on the public dime has been privatized, and anything that is for the public good is in a downward spiral as far as I can tell, and it's very difficult to look into student faces and see some of the things you say that you all have said that you're interested in addressing. But let me get to the point with the question, be respectful of everyone's time. I was teaching today, so it's kind of part of the hazard. But I'm very concerned about when I was a student, what it meant under Reagan when they started taxing scholarships, when the affordability of student loans, the crushing debt that students are facing. And now the CSU Board of Trustees has just voted unanimously to 5% increase as a mandatory increase. Now, while that's only about maybe a couple of $100 each semester, the students I see every day already are struggling way too hard to make ends meet. Many of them are immigrants. Many of them, as you know, Stanislaus is one of the highest rated colleges for improvement of life. And by this increase that the Board of Trustees have voted in, what they're always screaming about, when we fought with Chancellor White last year, the faculty, trying to protect students and faculty wages, and I'm sorry, I know it's a long, complicated question. Do you support the Assembly Bill, I think it's 393, which is a freeze on the fee increases at least until the 2019 to 2020 academic year?
First of all, it's a great question, and I think I'm going to be able to answer it. To speak to the particulars of the bill that you're referencing, I haven't read that particular bill, so I'm going to answer it in a general term on what my beliefs are, because that is what I will support. So I think that will answer the question in the roundabout terms. I absolutely support keeping education affordable as best we possibly can. And there is an opportunity right now, and I know that the president, we just got a new president with the Stan State, and I know that they're under these massive issues right now with bringing in more students, paying teachers properly, and all of those types of issues. And so they have to balance their budget. So if they find it necessary to raise that, it's something that I do take very, very serious, because it is a concern of mine. Because in California, with our students across the whole gamut of situations, housing, education, gas taxes, sales taxes, everything is going up in the state of California, including our education system. At some point, we can't afford to live in the state anymore. We can't afford to have students here anymore. So to answer your question, I want to do everything we possibly can to keep education as low as we possibly can, while keeping our schools, our campuses, the best they possibly can be under those dollars. We have to balance those budgets. We have to make sure that these schools stay solvent, stay relevant, so we can give people good education. But on top of that is our generation, millennials, and now coming into X, we need to have honest conversations with them on what it means to be educated. 4-year degrees are incredible. We need folks to go get 4-year degrees. But when we talk about, and I mentioned it before, about career technical education and bringing the arts into career tech, because that's part of that as well. We need to focus as a society and as a community on those type of jobs, that type of response to it. If we can find the high school students that just want to have a good paying job without going to a 4-year degree, then we need to support that as well. But to answer your question,
that bill also covers community colleges, and one of the things that chagrins me most is the things that you're talking about with technical education. I absolutely believe that. But if people aren't growing up really in family businesses, if they're not growing up on the farm anymore, what I see are students who are very book smart and know how to get through the test, but they don't have the practical skills. On the same token, you can't just give practical skills without the heart and the mind that go with that. And so that's where the arts are so vital, and the thing that's always cut. We're not talking about balancing budgets, it's where the money's coming from and where it's going.
And I completely agree with you. And I love your passion behind this, because you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We have to make sure that our system remains solvent, and if people can afford to go, and that is a really big question. Right now, the education in the state budget is roughly $52 billion out of our $104. So it's just over 50% of our state budget goes to education. About 17% of that is into higher ed. So we have a lot of money going into the system. So we need to really figure out if that money is being used properly, if the state needs to supplement something along the line. I'm open to those conversations. I absolutely am. But with that being said, we have to have it sustainable for all of us, because somebody has to foot the bill. And the people that foot that bill are the taxpayers of California. So we have to keep Sacramento accountable to that. And we have to make sure that the money that's allocated to education goes to education so it remains affordable for all of our students. Thank you.
Kathleen Alvarado. Kathleen Alvarado. Here, thank you. Kathleen Alvarado from Sirius would like to ask the Congressman, do you support right to work? Do you support the right to work?
We are a right to work state. We're not?
Do your homework.
I disagree, sir. The state of California is not a right-to-work state. Right-to-work states are killing the unions, and unions are what help keep us, make us able to have living wages, health insurance, and other benefits to keep us competitive with the rest of the world. I don't want right to work in California. It means that the unions aren't going to be able to represent their people because the people aren't going to be required to pay their union dues. And no one's going to be able to represent them.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining. I don't believe that there's a bill out there on that now. But Steve King, I believe, had an amendment that I was against that dealt with this issue.
There was a federal right to work bill, and that will make it difficult for the people who work in the federal jobs to get proper union protections.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, Rich Silverman. Rich Silverman. Here.
Tail dance. Thanks.
Okay. Rich Silverman's question from Antica. When we break ground on the VA facility at French Camp, what is the status of it? When will we break ground at the VA facility at French Camp? And what is the status of it? Did I catch that? Mr. Silverman?
Yes, thank you. So French Camp will be the newest VA hospital. It is one that has already had federal authorization as well as federal funding in the 2017 budget year. It should break ground this year. We're waiting on the Army Corps to do their finals. Their final plan is coming back. But we're holding them accountable. Our veterans are driving too far to get care right now. Unless you're going to one of our veterans health centers, you're going all the way down to Palo Alto. So we're losing too many veterans in the process. French Camp will get done this year.
Okay. Next up, Alejandro Carrillo from Oakdale. Alejandro, coming over there. Coming to you. Immigration reform.
Good to see you again.
Hold on. Did I get the name right?
So my name is Alejandro Carrillo. I'm from Oakdale, California. The first question is for all of you, actually. So I'm including you, Megan.
Get ready.
So I'm sure you've all read in the newspaper that agriculture is coming.
Yes.
So agriculture is coming to Modesto.
Yes.
Okay. So I wanna hear if you either support or condemn what she says. She's against immigrants. She's against even people of the Catholic faith. So I want to hear from each of you. Do you support Ann Coulter coming to Modesto?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, she speaks for the people.
Sure. I'll take that one first, even though I wanted to take my microphone off again. Yeah, so during the election, when I was trying to make up my mind as to who to vote for president, you'd find me outside Modesto Center Plaza when Bernie Sanders came to town because I was trying to get a spot to get in. I voted for, but it's someone I wanted to go listen to. I wanted to take the time to hear what his opinions were, what his philosophies were, what he's going to talk about. And so, while I'm out of town for the Ann Coulter event, I'm not against going in and listening to people that I disagree with or that I agree with. And so, for me, I'm a Republican that went to UC Berkeley, right? So I went there and had my ideals sharpened. Either I was more fortified after having really robust conversations about where I stood on whatever topic it be, or I learned something and I moderated a little bit. So that's just where I come at any one person. So that's just kind of my philosophy going forward.
This may not be acceptable because you may not believe me, but I haven't hardly paid attention to Ann Coulter when she decided she was coming, because I don't necessarily want to read her books because I have my own ideas on what we need to be in California, but I do absolutely support people's right for free speech, even though I may disagree with it. Okay? Whatever that speech may be. I personally will be at a firefighter event in Livermore, or Lathrop, that night, so I will not be attending. But it is something that we have to understand, that we, our veterans, fought for the right for free speech. Even if it's the most divisive speech that we can talk about, they have that right, okay? It may not be my thoughts, but I just, as much as I may not agree with her, she has the right. Thank you.
It's the right for your party to pay her.
Well, Andrew, good to see you again. I think you came over to our office not too long ago, and we had a very nice dialogue, so thank you. I'm in Washington, D.C. voting that day, but I as well believe in freedom of speech, even when it's somebody that I disagree with. And there have been many on the left that I've been very disagreement with, but freedom of speech, I think, is good for our country, and it's something that I fought for as a veteran of 16 years. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I forgot one person.
Thank you very much. So the advantage has always been, I don't know why I'm holding two microphones, but the advantage has always been that when I'm walking around, I answer the questions I only want to. It's just a joke. I feel very much, I had a group of folks who I very much respect coming in and tell me about, it's probably been 3 weeks, coming in and say something about Ann Coulter, and truly, because I don't have the cable news service, I have no idea who the lady is. I watched on The View, 2 episodes of The View. And so she's not my favorite person for sure. I am not going to be there. I'm going to be out of town for the same reason my lovely girlfriend, we're moving her up north. But I do believe in free speech. It's a tough thing. There's a fine line between what people perceive as hate speech versus free speech. We have to be careful because, as they always say, you don't yell fire in a crowded theater, crosses the line, but it's kind of a muddled line. So
Republicans paid her.
Accept, and you vote just like watching sports on TV or going to a game. You vote with your wallet with folks like that.
And you're paying for her, so you're voting for her.
In a recent conference call that you held, the conference town halls, you answered 3 of my questions regarding immigration reform, saying that you were for the ban, that you were for the wall, that you were for militarizing our border. But the 4th question was, what extra protections do you guarantee deferred action recipients, especially students under the new administration?
Well, thank you. See, I do take questions from everybody on my teletown halls. We've done several of these already.
What does that mean?
We've done several of these already. I try to be respectful of your time, and we keep them to an hour. But I try to answer as many questions as I can, as much detail as I can. I'm for comprehensive immigration reform. It's one of the issues that I've actually debated Ann Coulter on, and we've had some issues because of my strong stance on it. I am somebody that not only supports finding a solution for DACA children, but I'm somebody that's authored bills and driven them through the House, and I'll continue to do that. So comprehensive immigration reform means just that. Same way that I supported the only Republican on that Senate bill. Now. Come on now. Look. No.
Yeah, tell us what you want to say.
It's been an hour and a half already. It's been an hour and a half already, and I'm more than happy to stay longer. So, hold on. Well, I would like my record to speak for itself. Being the only Republican. Now, come on. You want me to finish? Let me finish. I'll give you all the details you want. So, remember the bipartisan bill that came over 2 years ago out of the Senate? I was the only Republican that signed on initially. Ultimately, David Valadao and I think a couple of others signed on to that as well. But that was a comprehensive, bipartisan immigration bill that you can look up today and see that I supported it. So it's black and white. And I'll continue to support it. But again, letting my record speak for itself, I'm also author and co-author of several different bills, not only on Dreamers, but dealing with all aspects of immigration reform. Our entire immigration system is broken. Everything from border enforcement, border security, to addressing our Dreamers that came here to no fault of their own, to overextended visas, to refugees, to those that have come on travel visas, and those that have had work visas. We have to resolve it all the way to bring people out of the shadows and ultimately not only create a greater America, but actually inviting more people to participate in our workforce.
Mike, there we go. Rick Kelly from Series.
You ignore it.
Rick Kelly has a question for both the Assemblyman and the Congressman, and it says, we appreciate your service, but he wants to know about.
So I have a question about water storage and our water in our valley. I know you kind of addressed that already. I live out in the country and we have a well that we drink our water from, and I'm a little concerned that with all the agriculture going on and trying to get water out of the ground, that my well is going to dry up. What are you guys planning to do, or how you're going to help with replenishing our aquifer?
Okay. I'm probably going to say, first of all, the mayor should probably speak on this. The only reason, and the assembly member, because it's a SIGMA issue, sustainable groundwater management. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Start with.
You okay to take a seat for a second, or you want to take it?
I'm sorry.
Well, let me start with my quick response.
Okay.
So I believe we've got to have more above ground water storage, but that also means off-stream storage for flood control, and I think that's one of the best ways to actually percolate water back into our underground water table. So from a federal perspective, it's creating more flood control and more water storage.
So I'm happy to answer this question. You're a Ceres resident. What I alluded to earlier is that we are actually embarking on a surface water program. The city of Ceres and the city of Turlock, we just acquired 9 billion gallons of water per year for 50 years from the Turlock Irrigation District from the Tuolumne River for drinking water. Exactly, you should clap. Because right now, both of our communities are 100% dependent on groundwater. And that groundwater is going away. So we worked with the Turlock Irrigation District in the 4th year of a drought to secure this for 50 years. Now, this water is going to come through, be treated, and we will be able to lessen our pumping, which means we're going to have in-lieu recharge, which will replenish our aquifers and strengthen them for the times when we do need them later on when the cycle comes in for a drought. So this is the conjunctive use pattern of using water that we at the city of Ceres and city of Turlock hope to help spread in our region. So we have 9 billion gallons of water for the two cities. That's more than the capacity that we need. So we're reaching out to our partners in Houston and in Keys and in Hillmar and Denham and other places where their groundwater is depleting, and we're hoping that they come on board as well and we can sell them water so that we're not pumping nearly as much, so that we can have a sustainable water resources for generations to come.
I think you're going to see when it comes to water, it's a federal, state, and a local issue, and we all are pulling on the same end of the rope when it comes to this particular issue. So I will just add one more thing. Coming out of an ag background, 25 years ago, we started really pushing drip irrigation systems. And I'm not sure the gentleman that, I'd look at you if I knew where you were sitting, so there you are. So 25 years ago, we started a lot of drip irrigation, which really, we pumped a lot of water out. What we're finding now is we're not flooding as much as we used to. And so we're not getting that groundwater recharge back into our underground aquifers, into our communities. So it's something that I really want to take a look at the state level and see if there's studies that we can do to see exactly what kind of help flood irrigation will help on those aquifers, because we do have a tremendous amount of water right now. So if we can flood certain areas, recharge our underground aquifers, it's something we really, really need to take a look at. But I think a lot of this issue with our groundwater started 20 years ago when we really moved into micro and drip irrigation systems. And now we're kind of maybe suffering some of those effects where it was very effective on water, but we're not getting that groundwater recharge out of our reservoirs to permeate that ground again.
And I would tell you the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, which was passed a little more than a year ago, requires that agencies get together and that essentially within 20 years that every drop you take out of the ground, you have to replenish it with a drop. I'm simplifying it, but it's going to be very difficult for the Central Valley. It's easier for Stanislaus and Merced counties because of the Forsyth, the Modesto, and Turlock irrigation districts, Merced irrigation district, South San Joaquin and Oakdale irrigation district. So we're not in critical overdraft at this point because of the surface water. Next question, John Wiedemann. Where's John Wiedemann? Do I see John? John's back here. Okay, so John has two questions, two-part question for the congressman. Will you call for an independent, non-partisan investigation of Donald Trump and Russia? And the second part of this question is, will you ask Donald Trump to release his taxes?
So yes and no. So let me start off with the first question. On independent investigation. First of all, I believe that regardless of what the investigation is, it always starts in the House and the Senate committees first. And so we have the investigative committee going on a bipartisan level in the House. We also have a Senate one. We also have a Senate one going on. But our third, which is actually an independent body and an independent investigation, is the FBI, which is doing their own investigation right now. But look, this is not something new.
So why did you vote down to not get its taxes?
This is not something new. You know, this was something that I called for a year and a half ago. Remember President Obama got on TV and said, you guys knock it off, Russia? That there was something going wrong. He knew something was going wrong then. And I thought we needed to have an investigation back then. And I was pushing it. So yes, under Democrat control, under Republican control, if you're hacking into our system, if you're trying to manipulate elections, then yes, we need to hold whatever country it is accountable. And
Why aren't you holding Trump accountable?
So,
why do you keep voting that down?
On the floor saying that.
You voted against
Will you introduce a bill on the floor for an independent investigation to invest Russia's involvement in this past election?
As I did under the previous administration, I supported the House and the Senate working through it first. But secondly, I would say the FBI needs to conclude its investigation as well. Independent body.
Release the taxes!
coming to you, Allison.
Part of your talking points here, where you're chanting yes or no, you want me to give you a yes or no answer, so I gave you a yes and a no. I said no, I won't do it. So you don't want a yes or no. Let me explain? All right, let me explain. So you do want me to explain, let me explain. So, under the previous president,
It has nothing to do with Obama. We're in Trump era.
but you want to know a larger explanation of how I look at these issues. So my job is to represent you. That means working with either Governor Schwarzenegger, Governor Brown, or President Obama, President Trump, whoever the next president is. Had Hillary Clinton won the election, I'd be trying to work with her as well. So when people ask me, as they did under the previous president, force him to show his birth certificate. Will you introduce a bill to do that? No. Ask him to ask the previous president that I served under to show his birth certificate any more than I would ask this president to show his taxes. So, I understand. So I understand that.
You know he's hiding something.
Well, somebody did leak one of the years of his taxes, and appeared he's getting more taxes than the previous president. I know that year wasn't good enough. So this is why I leave it to you. The same way that as political. Hold on. No. Okay. So we've gone over an hour and a half already. And I want to go another hour. Who wants to stay here another hour? Let's do it. I am ready to do it, but we have to be respectful. I can give you a yes or no answer, but if you want me to explain, you have to allow me to explain. I want to stay here and explain some of these things. So, some of the more politically charged issues, if it's a political issue, I'll allow you guys to work out the politics. If it's a legislative issue, I am more than happy to tell you how I vote. There has never been a bill that I know of under any administration in the history of our country. I had my staff looking this up to see where we've demanded a congressional legislative issue. We were going to pass legislation to force somebody to show their taxes. I will allow you to work through this political issue. How do you want me to vote on that? Yes,
just preventing him from answering any questions. Come on, guys. Okay, next question. Allison Cassidy from Patterson, staying next to my right. The Valley has the worst air quality in the nation. 1 in 5 children has asthma. Considering Trump's drastic cuts to the EPA, how do you plan to reduce air pollution in our region?
All right, I want to make sure I fully explain my answer. So it was, the whole thing's to me?
It is for you, but
so we had a little disruption. Can you please read the question again?
Yes. The Valley has the worst air quality in the nation. 1 in 5 children have asthma. Considering Trump's drastic cuts to the EPA, how do you plan to reduce air pollution in the region, in our region?
Thank you. So as we talked about already, my position on climate change, I'm looking for policies that address all aspects of clean energy. So that not only includes, that not only includes solar and wind, but I believe hydro should be a green energy as well. So I want to see more storage and more hydroelectricity. Beyond that, let me finish. beyond just hydro, I also believe in biomass. I believe that we've got to continue to clean up our forests so that they don't burn up. And as Stanislaus County does, we actually have biomass, so rather than burying our trash, we actually use biomass as a cleaner form of energy to solve one problem while helping us to reduce gas emissions as well. I think as farmers, if you want to reduce the amount of carbon in our air, those of us that plant trees, it is something that is helpful as well. So I grew up with asthma. I am concerned about our air quality. I know from a state perspective, CARB, California Air Resources Board, deals with a lot more of the quality of air control. So, do you want me to punt to you? Huh? EPA! Well, now you understand, if we were going to follow a federal guideline, that federal guideline would be far above what CARB already has. So you would be asking me to change and lift our cap in the valley rather than make it a cleaner air that we're already having with CARB. So you want a federal perspective that goes beyond CARB? CARB is the California Air Resources Board, which is most stringent in the entire country. You're asking me to push EPA below the California air pollution. We have it. It's state law.
There's let me take it real quick, and not so much on how we, this asthma that we have in the Central Valley, it's coming from a lot of different areas. And so there's a couple things I do want to address. We get a significant amount of smog from 90 miles away from us on the coast. So a lot of the San Francisco area, the Bay Area, a lot of that comes into our area, which we have to deal with. The wind blows it into the grapevine and it goes over the hills and away it goes. So we do have to understand that we are dealing with our issues as well as the Bay Area issues together, right? So when it comes to ag, there is a very unique, and it's a bill that I'm actually sponsoring with some friends with Cal Recycle, working with the environmental groups, and the congressman has mentioned a couple times tonight on our forest system. Okay, right now, the environmental groups understand that in Sierra Nevada, roughly we're about 300 to 400 trees per acre. A healthy forest is in the 60 to 80 trees per acre range. We are significantly overgrown. The issue with that is when we have these forest fires, that rim fire that burned in 2013 put off as much greenhouse gases as 2.5 million cars in a year, okay? So if we're gonna have an honest conversation about this, let's look at the entire spectrum. The Central Valley, when it comes to agriculture, has made drastic measures with the help of CARB and programs to take old tractors off the streets and put new ones in. So we are really working hard to address this issue. So I do support in a lot of ways what the Air Resource Board is doing, but sometimes I do think that they're asking too much too fast. When we talk about the fossil fuels and some of those issues when it comes to our trucking systems, like the green energy right now with battery-powered cars, we're not there yet. So we have to have technology catch up before we make these drastic cuts, because we feed the world out of the Central Valley, and some of the best environmental people that I know are the farmers right here in Central Valley, and I'm excited to represent them. So it's something that we are working very closely with the state and the feds on addressing this issue, but it is not going away, and it's only going to ramp up.
And we're not going away either.
I would want you to.
There is a member on the California Air Resources Board right here from Turlock, that's John Eisenhut, who's serving as well. One other thing I want everyone to recognize, we have other elected officials. I didn't recognize all of them. If you're an elected official, stand up. I know my colleague, Terry Winthrop, but there's a lot of people from around the area who are on this elected boards and are all listening to the questions so that we can work better together. Okay, Andrew Gomez from Turlock. Andrew Gomez. Andrew's question is for the mayor, Gary Soisa. What steps are you taking to improve Turlock's roads?
Thank you so much for that question. Absolutely. So as you know, I was a large proponent of Measure L, which passed this last November with over 72% from Turlock specifically. Give yourselves a round of applause. That half-cent sales tax is going to be front-loaded here in the city of Turlock. We are going to fix it first before we do larger projects. We're going to fix the actual roads that are here, that are in the worst conditions and traveled the most. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about West Main. From 99 coming into West Main, that is going to break ground August 1st and be the first Measure L project in the entire Stanislaus County. And I'm very proud of that here in Turlock. After that, we're going to be going on to Olive. We're going to go into East Avenue. And one of the things that I get criticized the most is about roads in Turlock, how the newer sections in Turlock seem to be always repaved and the older ones go into neglect. And that's partially true. And that's partially true because those newer sections have assessment districts. They're self-taxing areas that provide the funds to repave the roads every 7 years. And so these older roads are neglected. That's why when we did our Measure L formula, we focused on those areas. We focused on West Main and East Ave. Look at the map. Those aren't in our newer areas. Those are in our older neighborhoods where the potholes are worse and the gutters are worse, and we need to make sure we take care of those. Additionally, we have a pothole repair team that goes out there every single day. If you have a pothole in your yard, in your cul-de-sac, someone just talked to me about one on Flower Street today when I was turning in my taxes. Give me a call down at City Hall. We have a team that wants to fix those right away. It's a Band-Aid approach, but that's why Measure L, which will bring upwards of $70 million into our local economy here to fix roads, is the right solution for the city of Turlock.
Charlie Rose. Charlie Rose. It really is Charlie Rose. That's what it says. I see Charlie Rose. I'm going to ask the question because it's a pretty broad range topic, and you can answer. You can all answer. How will you protect mental health funding using the Affordable Care Act? How will you protect mental health funding in anything, ACA or even local?
Mental health?
Yeah.
A couple different ways. We passed 21st Century Cures last year, which actually had the mental health bill in it. I brought Tim Murphy from Pennsylvania. He is the only psychiatrist in Congress, so he's dealt with a lot of mental health issues. But it is one of the issues that anyways, he has come to our community so that we could actually address some of the mental health issues in our community. It's one of the reasons I co-authored the bill initially, which was passed last year. We need to make sure that it's one of the, if you take a look at our jails, prison system, I think some of the changes here locally we're doing a better job with, but a lot of it is mental health right now, where we need to give people the help that they need so that they're not creating some of the challenges.
I will tell you, in Stanislaus County, we have a brand new jail, AB 900 project. It's about $90 million. It's just being populated right now. We can all attest to there were never any services for those who were mentally ill inside the facility. So in a lot of cases, people came out worse than when they went in. We currently, in this brand new jail, and Adam Christensen is the operator of the jail, we have a full medical and mental health facility in there. State-of-the-art, hospital beds, and people are going to get the treatment they need and the treatment they deserve. If we're going to reacclimate, because the money, as the money rolls around, it's all about stopping recidivism, but recidivism comes with drug and alcohol use and mental health disorders. It's the, we would call it the grunge of, it's mean, it's hard to break that, and so we at least have an opportunity now to do that. So thank you for your comment there, Congressman. That's not true. I appreciate that, but that is not the truth. Terry Withrow, where's Terry Withrow? Did he just walk out? He's on the Board of Supervisors, went out the back way. He ran, yeah. But he is our mental health board representative for the Board of Supervisors. The mental health board is made up of both consumers, meaning you have a family member or you're a consumer yourself, as well as citizens. Right now we're going through some outreach meetings to see if Laura's Law fits in our community. We have a brand new, you have a comment, I can see that. And so the meeting, the outreach, I was hoping he was there, he was going to tell me when they were, but it's very important that your voice is heard on all subjects. That's all. What are you going to say?
Okay.
This is completely out of line by me.
I apologize. Thank you. Thank you. So mental health, I appreciate talking about prisons, talking about homeless people. But what about all the teenagers who are suffering? I have a 15-year-old daughter suffering from it. I had to take her to the Bay Area to get treatment. I had to take her to Southern California to get treatment.
Can I ask, is that because of a lack of providers or?
Okay.
Because I'm not sure.
Well, lack of providers, yes. I'm not going to buy into the whole ACA thing, his lack of providers thing. I'm not going to go there. But I have really, really good health insurance. I'm blessed with it. But in 1 year, over $200,000 in medical bills for my daughter. And it just kills me the idea of people who can't do that for their children. And I want to know what's being done for children. There's no facilities within this district for children. My daughter had to be put in an adult facility for 48 hours with adults suffering from mental illness before she was transferred to someplace in the Bay Area. And that is unacceptable. And I want to know what you guys are going to do about that. You guys work for us. Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude, but there's nothing for seniors as well. There you go. What can we do besides helping the people in the prisons, besides helping the people who are homeless? You know, I've done everything I can to raise my kid. I work, I pay taxes. There's stuff for people on Medi-Cal. I couldn't even go to a SpearNet because I have good insurance, but I had to drive 3 hours to get my daughter a doctor. So I want to know what you guys can do to help.
Say your name.
My name is Crystal Souza, and I live right here in Denham.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm going to take a half-hearted stab at this also. Currently, and I wish Supervisor Withrow hadn't left, but there is something called Focus on Prevention the county's doing, along with all the 9 cities. And essentially what we're trying to do is trying to spend the best dollar we can. You have so many programs that have a little bit of money